Something just shifted behind the scenes, and it changes how this entire defense operates week to week. Yet I'm not convinced everyone's catching it. At the same time, there's a local offensive name being floated that could give Drake May a real middle-of-the-field answer without you blowing up the budget. Then you've got the draft conversation. One versatile offensive lineman who feels like a direct reaction to what we all watched in Super Bowl 60. And hovering over all of it? That familiar superstar wide receiver rumor that instantly splits Patriots Nation into two loud sides. How far are you willing to go to get a true WR1 if the cost is a key piece of the secondary? Hit like, subscribe, and stick with me, because the craziest part of this whole thing lands at the end. Let's get right to it. This isn't just off-season chatter. This is a genuine shift inside the building. The Patriots are promoting Zak Kuhr to defensive coordinator, and a source confirmed it. That's not a fancy label for a business card. That's the person with the headset, deciding when to crank up the pressure, when to sit back, when to disguise, when to take the shot, when to protect a lead. And sure, once Terrell Williams was moved into a high-ranking role on Mike Vrabel's staff away from the DC job, this outcome was expected. But expected still has to be earned. The league doesn't hand you anything. Next Sunday, you're proving it all over again. And the context here matters a lot. Kuhr stepped into the play-calling role this season after Williams took leave following a cancer diagnosis. Kuhr is 37, and it was the first time he'd ever called a defense. First time. That's the part that still kind of blows your mind. Yet New England finished with one of the top units in the NFL, 4th in points allowed and 8th in total defense. That's not a cute little footnote. That's an identity you can hang your hat on. Then the playoffs hit, and when every error gets magnified, they tightened up even more. During the run to the Super Bowl, they allowed 13.8 points per game. Sit with that for a second. That's the kind of defense that travels. That's the kind of defense that gives you a chance late, even when the offense isn't perfect. Now, small pause, because this is where the job changes. The second you stamp defensive coordinator next to Kuhr's name, the responsibility expands. You're not just filling in anymore. You're building weekly plans, studying tendencies, setting counters, managing how the staff works, deciding what gets emphasized in practice, and keeping the locker room locked in when opponents start throwing curveballs. And they will. Everybody in the league is going to poke at the same spots. Third down calls, red zone preferences, pressure packages, the coverage you lean on when it's third and long. If someone finds the soft spot early, what does the counterpunch look like? The upside for the Patriots is continuity. Vrabel isn't walking in trying to flip the personality of a defense that just carried a team deep into the postseason. Promoting Kuhr tells you they want the language consistent, the communication clean, the in-game adjustments fast. But you already know what's coming in Patriots Nation. One question, two camps. Do you ride with the guy who proved it on the field? Or do you worry about handing a contender's defense to a first-year full-time play caller? You can hear it right now. Half the fan base is like, he earned it. The other half says, the window is open, don't mess around. And to make it even more grounded, Williams himself publicly backed Kuhr. During Super Bowl 60 media night, Williams talked about what Kuhr did in his absence, gave him credit for taking control of the defense, and pointed to how far back their connection goes to Tennessee. Williams, recently declared cancer-free, traveled with the team to San Francisco. That matters. This isn't a messy breakup. It's a staff reshuffle, roles changing, not relationships snapping. So if the defense can stay steady, the heat swings right back to the side of the ball that's been under the microscope for years. The offense. How do you give Drake May more help without messing with what just got you to the Super Bowl? And that brings us straight to a name people can't stop bringing up, because of one tiny online moment that turned into a whole conversation. Isaiah Likely, Ravens tight end. No big sit-down interview, no dramatic announcement, just the smallest signal. He liked to comment on social media telling him to come home to Massachusetts. And look, one like doesn't sign a contract. I get it. But in today's NFL, little digital breadcrumbs become a temperature check. When a young player is headed toward his first free agency and starts getting connected to a team, people read into everything. So the question becomes pretty simple. Was that nothing? Or does it mean something? Likely is 25, and the production is real. Over the last 4 years, he has 135 receptions for 1,568 yards and 15 touchdowns. He's never topped 500 yards in a season, and I can already hear the pushback. That's not a star resume. Fair, if you ignore the context. In Baltimore, he hasn't been the centerpiece. His role, his usage, the weekly volume, it hasn't been built around him being the guy. In New England, the fit is what keeps pulling people back in, especially with Hunter Henry already here. The part I don't think people are leaning into enough is the coaching fit. Josh McDaniels loves tight ends. He loves putting defenses in conflict, heavy looks that suddenly flip into quick routes that punish linebackers. He loves the middle of the field. He loves giving a quarterback a clean answer when it's 3rd and long. Picture Henry pulling attention to one side, likely sliding into space on the other, and May actually having a reliable chain mover when the pocket gets loud. That's not a daydream. That's how an offense stays on schedule. There's also the practical roster angle. Likely could slide into the spot Austin Hooper held, assuming Hooper isn't re-signed, while still giving you a piece you can grow with. He's already an impressive blocker, and that matters because it keeps your playbook honest. You don't become predictable. You don't scream pass the second he steps on the field. If the goal is to build something sustainable, youth, development, a foundation, you can see why he fits the picture. But it's not automatic. Potential costs money, and other teams can outbid you. The only advantage you can even float is the hometown pull. The idea that maybe he'd be excited to play where he's from. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't. And that's exactly why Patriots Nation is going to argue about it. One side sees a young tight end ready to pop in the right system. The other side sees a player you'd be paying for what he could become, not just what he already is. And while everyone debates weapons, there's another reality you can't dodge. The Super Bowl wasn't only a "we're back" moment. It also exposed a weakness you can't explain away. Everyone wants to lead with the run to the Super Bowl, and they should. But the uncomfortable truth is this. Getting there also showed exactly where the Patriots are still vulnerable. The offensive line got upended by the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 60. That's not trash talk. That's a lesson. When protection falls apart, everything else starts breaking down. Route concepts don't matter. Red zone plans don't matter. Chunk plays don't matter. Because the quarterback doesn't have time to breathe. That's why the draft angle is already getting real momentum. In ESPN's latest mock draft, Field Yates has the Patriots reinforcing the line by taking Utah offensive tackle/guard Caleb Lomu with the 31st pick. And that tackle/guard tag is the whole story. Versatility matters because injuries happen, chemistry gets tested, and the season never follows the neat plan you sketch in July. Lomu is listed at 6'6", 304 pounds, and here's the number that jumps out. He didn't allow a single sack in 2025. 0. That's a real data point. Still, you don't draft a stat line. You draft a player. Yates also noted that Lomu needs to further develop his strength, and that's key because the Patriots aren't drafting to rebuild. They just made the Super Bowl. They're drafting to protect Drake May now. This is where the fan base splits again, because Will Campbell is part of this conversation. Campbell struggled in the playoffs. People talked about it non-stop after the Super Bowl loss, and yet Vrabel has committed to keeping Campbell at left tackle beyond 2025. So where does Lomu go? Does he kick inside? Does he compete elsewhere? Does he become the swing piece who saves you when something goes sideways? I'll say it once. If May spends the early part of 2026 dodging pressure, the whole offense slows down. You can't build timing. You can't stress defenses. Your quarterback starts feeling ghosts. That's how seasons get off track fast. Lomu might not even be there at 31, and that's the tension sitting under all of this. If he's gone, what's the next plan? Because you can't watch protection get exposed on the biggest stage and just shrug. And while some fans are thinking, build the wall, other fans are watching the fireworks. The A.J. Brown conversation is back, again, and it's the kind of rumor that instantly turns your comment section into a battleground. It's another offseason, and the Patriots are connected to wide receiver A.J. Brown for the 1,000,000th time. Since Vrabel took over, that link has only gotten louder. There's talk because Brown's name keeps floating in trade conversations, and Bleacher Report's Mo Moton threw out a specific proposal. The Patriots would land Brown by sending a 2026 third-round pick and cornerback Carlton Davis III. On paper, it looks lighter than what people have been projecting for the last couple years. That's exactly why it struck a nerve. Because yes, A.J. Brown would change the offense right away. He's 28, he's physical, and he's the type of receiver who forces defenses to tilt coverage before the snap. For Drake May, that's not just a weapon, that's an answer. That's someone who can win when the play breaks down, turn tight windows into completions, keep you alive in 3rd and long, and punish teams in the red zone. But here's where it flips. Trading Carlton Davis III means you're pulling a starter out of a secondary that was a huge part of the late-season surge and the postseason run. Even with Davis being inconsistent at points during the 2025 season, something plenty of fans brought up, he was still a major piece next to Christian Gonzalez when the games mattered most. That's why the response was so negative. Not because fans don't want Brown, because fans don't want to fix one hole by ripping open another. And to make it messier, there are cap implications for both teams that could complicate a swap like this. Nothing is as easy as a screenshot trade graphic. So if New England wants Brown, fans are basically saying the path has to look different. Different pieces, different structure. Something that doesn't yank out a core part of what just helped carry you to a Super Bowl. Now connect the dots, because this is the payoff. Kuhr getting the DC job points to defensive continuity. Likely being discussed points to a younger, McDaniels-friendly way to give May more options over the middle. Lomu showing up in draft talk points straight to protecting your franchise quarterback after the Super Bowl exposed the line. And the A.J. Brown rumor is the stress test. How aggressive do you want to be? And what are you willing to give up? The wildest part is this. For the first time in a long time, the Patriots don't have to move like a desperate team. They can choose. They can be precise. That's real power. So I'm putting it on you. What changes 2026 the most? Locking in the defense with Kuhr, chasing likely to build the tight end room, using pick 31 to upgrade protection, or swinging big on a receiver like Brown even if it costs you on defense. Drop your take in the comments. Make it a real one. And if you're riding with Patriots content all offseason, make sure you're subscribed.